Coming up on BCN today, provincial ministers were in Lethbridge to unveil an $11 million supportive housing announcement. Plus, the coronavirus now declared a global emergency. And although there's a chance of contracting the virus, a Saskatchewan teacher in China says he's not coming home just yet.
Your Canada. Your Southern Alberta. Your stories. From our studios in the heart of Lethbridge, it's BCN Today with Jeanette Rocher.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Friday. The World Health Organization decided yesterday the coronavirus epidemic is a public health emergency of international concern. Almost 10,000 people have been sickened globally and 213 people have died in China. The WHO says most people who have gotten the illness had milder cases, with only 20% experiencing severe symptoms. Only 3 cases of the virus have been reported in Canada. One man in Toronto remains in hospital, while his wife, as well as a man in British Columbia, are self-isolated. Health officials say the risk to Canadians remains low. Our country's chief public health officer says it may be at least a year before a vaccine is developed to protect people from coronavirus. In the meantime, Dr. Theresa Tam says governments and public health authorities should plan on having to manage the outbreak. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, says Ottawa has a plane preparing to fly Canadians out of the province in China at the center of the coronavirus outbreak. He says next step is to secure cooperation from China to assist the Canadians who have requested help.
We now have 160 Canadians which have been asking Canada for consular assistance in China. We have secured a plane to repatriate Canadians who so wish to come back. Now the next step obviously is to work on the diplomatic front and the logistics obviously with our Chinese counterparts. We're engaging in discussion as we speak. And I also want to advise Canadians that we have change our travel advisory to advise Canadians to avoid non-essential travel to China.
Health Minister Patty Hajdu says the government still has to decide what will happen with the Canadians who leave China so as to prevent any spread of the virus. She also says the government does not know when it will repatriate the Canadians from Wuhan, where the virus originated. The federal NDP, meanwhile, is calling for more information about the government's planned response.
Of course, we're going to put into place measures to protect Canadians who are in China, in the region, regardless of their situation, and that will be different for different needs. I mean, some people don't want to leave, but they need other kinds of supports and services, and so we'll work on a case-by-case basis with the Chinese government and with the Canadians that are in the region to support them in the best way possible. In terms of the World Health Organization's declaration of an emergency, a global emergency, public health emergency, what that means is that really in terms of Canada, we are actually up to date with the recommendations of the World Health Organization. I think there's an implication that we need stronger countries need to support the weaker countries in the world to prevent the further transmission of the illness in a global way. And that's very important for the health of all of our citizens.
I think that it's time for the government to get off their platitudes and their generalities and start revealing to Canadians what their specific plans are. One of the chief reasons for the WHO move is their concern that there are nations on the globe, around the globe that do not have the capacity to deal with this virus. If you think about that, that's a very serious and significant concern. It means that we're not just concerned now about people coming from China or Wuhan province, we're concerned about people coming from countries all over the globe. They absolutely have to be quarantined at some point. When we know that the virus incubates for up to 14 days, we need to make absolutely sure that anybody who is getting on a plane with people that maybe are healthy can't infect them. And we have to make sure that only healthy people get on that plane. And the government's relatively, I think, moderate pace of behavior and reaction on this file is no longer good enough.
U.S. citizens returning from visiting family in China for the Lunar New Year holiday describe what it's like in the country right now and traveling during the ongoing outbreak.
I think it's quite serious and people are concerned. Nobody goes on the streets. Most of people are staying at home. Yeah. And people just order grocery and meals through delivery. There's no symptom for the first like 1 to 2 weeks. So that means you could carry virus without knowing that, and you could be the carrier and spread it. So that's the serious part. Yeah. And you don't know who around you is carrying virus because there's no symptom.
Every shop is closed. We can't really go anywhere. There's no business open. Even though there's one business, we went there. They promised the second day they're going to open it, but then when we went in again, they said no. The government, doesn't allow us to open until like a week later. So we actually didn't do much there. I believe they can contain, especially outside Wuhan. But within Wuhan is kind of very hard to say.
Some people are frustrated at home because there's nothing to do. It's not fun at all. But we are kind of like confident about this battle with the virus because we know that the infections are from people to people. So if we stop getting in touch with each other, staying at home, hang out with your family members, then it should be fine. They will test your temperature, body temperature. Then if you haven't got in touch with anyone who has already been sick or anyone who comes from Wuhan, where the virus comes from, then you should be fine. It's not that hard to get out of China.
Dorian Burt is a math teacher from Rosetown, Saskatchewan. He's currently working at an international school in Guangzhou, China. BCN's Hal Roberts caught up with him yesterday.
Dorian, I know it's late there where you are, and I really appreciate your time. How have you personally been dealing with the coronavirus outbreak?
Well, I've been trying to follow the rules the government's put in place, which is stay as private as possible, stay home as much as possible, avoid all of the what would normally be very public spaces, and just try to avoid any possible sources of contact with people that might be sick.
Do you know anyone who's been affected by the disease, maybe friends or coworkers?
Not personally, but I do know there have been a couple people in my local area that have been diagnosed with it.
What has the Chinese government told you so far about the coronavirus?
Well, it's certainly a lot different than when SARS was a big issue because there's no way to contain information anymore. There's so many people on social media in China that are spreading information that the government's been required more or less to be as open as possible about what's happening. So we've got various WeChat groups, the Facebook posts, the news reports from all of the Western media. We know pretty well what's going on.
Are you concerned about your own safety?
People think I should be, but I'm actually not. Like, I look at the numbers. I teach math. I like statistics. I look at the numbers, and right now, the infection rate and mortality rate is lower than what Canada sees every year during flu season. So it's just a matter of be sensible, wash your hands, that kind of thing. And the likelihood of actually getting sick is really low.
Do you have any plans of coming back to Canada anytime soon?
No, I'm not panicking at all. Like, I'm not worried. I will be here for as long as I'm here.
Dorian Burt is a Canadian teacher working in China. Thanks so much for your time today.
Well, thank you so much.
Politicians in Toronto say they don't want to see a repeat of the 2003 when Chinese Canadians were discriminated against following the SARS outbreak. They say racist attitudes are increasing once again thanks to the coronavirus.
Toronto is home to 300,000 residents of visible Chinese descent. They are our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, and our family members. During critical moments when there is fear, we must not succumb to misinformation. We must not succumb to racism, nor must we succumb to attempts to place blame. Our city learned a tremendous amount 17 years ago from the experience with SARS, and that resulted in an improved and strengthened public health system
We can't let fear or ignorance triumph over our values of community, understanding, respect, and rejection of discrimination or stigmatization.
I think it's important for all of us to recognize that in times of fear and uncertainty, people are going to look for blame. It is a natural human reaction. But at the same time, we want to not necessarily fall victim to that. At this point in time, given what is happening in Toronto and across the country, there will probably be more harm caused by racism, xenophobia, discrimination, harassment, racial taunts, directed specifically to the Chinese Canadian community and others of Asian descent, then we will be harmed by the coronavirus.
And here in Alberta, the provincial government announced an $11 million funding initiative to help tackle homelessness in Lethbridge. Seniors and Housing Minister Josephine Pon made the announcement Thursday at Lethbridge City Hall.
This is an exciting day in Lethbridge, and that our government so pleased in partnership with the Canada Mortgage and Housing and announced that $11 million in support of capital investment to support the 42 units for permanent supporting housing in Lethbridge.
Wonderful to see that the City of Lethbridge will move forward and make progress on another pillar in the war on drugs. The fact that we will now have supported housing for those in need. It's certainly a first step. We expect this will accommodate about 40 people. We understand the caseload is about 145. We want to build on that relationship with the provincial government to make sure all vulnerable people in the City of Lethbridge receive the help and the support that they need.
This is one of the primary objectives of Minister Pon's ministry right from day one. Like I said in earlier, that right in May, one of the very first trips she did around the province was stand up in Lethbridge to address this specific issue. And I've been speaking to her about it since then. Obviously, the previous administration was also looking towards this, and as the mayor said, over 6 years they've been working on it. So multiple administrations, lots of people, but this kind of work, it takes that. You got to keep putting your shoulder to it and moving it forward. So it feels like a breakthrough to get to this stage, for sure.
RCMP say they're looking for a dangerous armed suspect following a bank robbery in a southern Alberta town. Mounties say a disguised man walked into the ATB branch in Trochu, Alberta, near Three Hills yesterday, carrying what looked like a firearm. The suspect then demanded money before he fled. No one was hurt. RCMP are urging people not to approach the suspect. Meanwhile, on the morning of January 29th, Brooks RCMP responded to a complaint of a suspicious person at a bus stop near the JBS Center. A young student reported that while waiting for a bus, a man in a truck did a U-turn after passing by and stopped to initiate a conversation. The interaction was brief, and the man left quickly when the school bus arrived. The student did the correct thing and didn't speak to the person and notified an adult. The vehicle is described as a two-door, older blue truck with rust. The driver is described as male, a teenager to possibly early 20s, heavy-set with a light-colored mustache. Brooks RCMP are looking to speak to the driver to determine whether this is a criminal matter. RCMP add that the interaction was limited to the driver asking whether the student had transportation. If you have any information regarding this occurrence, please contact the Brooks RCMP at the number on your screen. 2 men are facing charges of drugs and stolen property from a downtown Lethbridge residence. On January 30th, a warrant was obtained and executed at a residence along the 300 block of 5th Street South. Upon entry, police seized methamphetamine, crack cocaine, and other drug paraphernalia, along with multiple stolen identity documents. Jeffrey Stevens Martins, age 51, and 34-year-old Eric Joel McCald face numerous charges. Both are currently in custody awaiting a judicial interim release hearing. A group of local bikers has been awarded a $1,000 grant. Bikers Building Bridges received the money from Walmart in partnership with the group's Stand Strong mentorship program. Bikers Building Bridges President Chris Plum says the grant will help kids in our community in a variety of ways.
That allowed us to take 5 kids through this program. Originally it was supposed to be 10 weeks, but Canadian Mixed Martial Arts has upped that to 15 weeks for us. The goal of it is to just take some kids that are having troubles and, you know, maybe dealing with bullies or their self-esteem, and take them out there. They'll learn jiu-jitsu, they'll learn some kickboxing, and just kind of build their self-respect, their self-esteem.
Plum says they hope to offer more self-defense courses down the road, depending on future funding. The Old Man Watershed Council has made the Old Man River a priority through education and restoration. An education program manager for the council stopped by Sackpaw Thursday to discuss the importance of protecting not only our drinking water from the Old Man River, but also the 4,300 trees.
We've been working for the last 4 years or so on engaging backcountry users in helping to care for the watershed and the headwaters, which is where our water comes from. So we've been out talking to people face to face. We've talked to over 5,600 people over the last couple of years. We've done in-person surveys. We've engaged them in volunteer restoration events where we go and plant willows along stream banks to help protect the water that we're all relying on here in the watershed.
The Lethbridge Collegiate Institute Arts Academy has a special event beginning February 6th at the Yates Theatre. It's a dance show called Choros.
Choros is the name of our show, and it's the Greek word for song and dance. And the word chorus and choir derived from the Greek word choros. So this year we have incorporated the beautiful sounds of the LCI jazz choir into our show. So that's why we're choros. We're the mixture of song and dance.
I'm just excited about how every year we just step it up. Last year it was such a great show, and this year we're just stepping it up even more. So I'm just really excited to, get out there and just perform.
It's been a lot of hard work. We've had tons of rehearsals like during school and outside of school, and a lot of us have made a lot of sacrifices to commit to it and put in the time. But we're all excited because we know it's going to pay off, and yeah, it's going to be really awesome.
Some talented teens there. The Alberta Firefighters Association says it's concerned about a change to the provincial building code that will allow wood-framed buildings up to 12 stories high. The association says it wants the province to provide specific training and have emergency response plans for municipalities that allow such buildings. It says wood-framed buildings burn much quicker and hotter than other buildings. The association says the government didn't consult with it and wants the change delayed until after a review of the National Building Code later this year. The provincial government included the decision in last year's Red Tape Reduction Act. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told supporters at a fundraiser in Mississauga last night that the USMCA deal will help all Canadians, and he believes it will be supported in the minority parliament. Canada has yet to ratify the new trade agreement, but Trudeau says he's received indications other parties will help his government pass legislation to approve the deal.
We've moved forward this week with securing our trade access to the United States. Securing it not just for a few more years, but for a few more generations. Having top Republicans and top Democrats agree and try to take credit for this great deal means that businesses, workers, investors in Canada and around the world can now be confident in the strength of that relationship. And that is going to mean very good things for the Canadian economy and for Canadians from coast to coast to coast.
Tory leadership hopeful Aaron O'Toole was in Calgary recently to launch his campaign. The Alberta correspondent for the National Post, Tyler Dawson, had a chance to chat with Aaron O'Toole. He says he believes that he's the best candidate available since he's the only true blue Conservative in the race.
And he said, quite clearly that he thinks Peter MacKay is a red Tory. He will turn the party into the Liberal Party light, is what Aaron O'Toole said. And he thinks that the Conservative Party should pick him as a conservative, principled conservative who thinks that Conservatives can win by having conservative ideas on everything from healthcare to defense, foreign policy, all these sorts of things.
Tyler will also have details about changes to the Alberta Seniors Drug Benefit Program. That's coming up in the second half of our show. As Britain prepares to bow out of the European Union today, Scotland will fly the EU flag as a sign of defiance. British citizens are still divided over Brexit, and most Scots want to remain in the bloc. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is urging the country to come together. Britain officially leaves the Continental Alliance at midnight Brussels time. Well, it is feeling a lot like spring again, and we should be hitting those double digits again today and tomorrow. Lots of wind, though. The full weather details are coming up after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back. Here's a look at our weather highlights for today and tomorrow in Lethbridge. Lots of sunshine in the forecast today with some scattered clouds. And look at that. We're going to be getting up to some double digits finally. 12 degrees is the high today. And into tomorrow, Saturday, 14 is the high. But expect some rain. I guess it's better than snow, which is what we've been predicting. Lots of sunshine on Sunday. -1 is going to be the temperature. We're going to dip a bit on Monday into -7 and then climb for Tuesday to 1 degree and climb even further on Wednesday. 11 degrees is the high. Thursday's high is 8 degrees. Lots of sunshine expected over the next 5 days there, except for Saturday, of course, which is going to be rainy. We'll take the rain over the snow, won't we? The average highs and lows this time of year, -1 is the average high, -13 the average low. The highest temperature recorded on this day was in 1962. It was 14 degrees. And the lowest temperature was -39. That was in 1969. The sun rose this morning at 8:06 a.m. and it will set at 5:23 p.m. There you go. So looking over to the rest of the nation, the highs today over on the west coast, they are going to be getting some showers again. Victoria's high is 14 degrees today. Vancouver should see a high of 11. 5 degrees is expected up in Edmonton, and 8 degrees is the high for Calgary. Lots of sunshine throughout the prairies with scattered clouds, including into Saskatchewan. Saskatoon's high 0. 2 degrees is expected as the high in Regina. And Winnipeg continues to get their flurries, high of -4 over there. Looking over into Toronto, 1 degree, they are still experiencing some flurries there. And then Ottawa, -5, -4 is the high in Montreal. Lots of sunshine in that area with some scattered clouds as well in that region. Looking further east into the Maritimes, Fredericton's high today, -1, lots of sunshine. Tons of sunshine throughout Atlantic Canada today. 2 degrees the high in Halifax, -4 is expected in Charlottetown. But St. John's, poor St. John's, they're still getting hammered with some snow. -7 is their high today. There you go, that is your forecast. Up next is Hal Roberts with the ski report.
Here is the BCN ski report. Marmot Basin has had 3 centimeters of new snow with a 110 centimeter base. No new snow at Castle Mountain, but there's still a 196 centimeter base. Sunshine Village has had 5 centimeters of fresh snow and a 140 centimeter base. Lake Louise has had 3 centimeters of new snow and a 138 centimeter base. Mount Norquay has had 1 centimeter of fresh powder and an 81 centimeter base. Nakiska has had 3 centimeters of fresh snow and a 107 centimeter base. No new snow in Whistler, but they still have a 253 centimeter base. Panorama has had 2 centimeters of fresh powder and a 105 centimeter base. Whitefish, Montana, no new snow, but a 290 centimeter base. Be safe and have fun on the slopes this weekend.
And if you're not hitting the slopes this weekend, then you might want to catch what's on the big screen. Here's your Movie Mill Minute.
Spies in disguise. Super spy Lance and scientist Walter are almost exact opposites. But when events take an unexpected turn, Walter and Lance suddenly have to rely on each other in a whole new way. And if this odd couple can't learn to work as a team, the whole world is in peril.
There's a bad guy who needs to be stopped. And now I have to try to stop him while being a bird.
Lucky for you, I'm your wingman. This is official business.
Parasite. All unemployed, Keytek and his family take a peculiar interest in the wealthy and glamorous Parks as they integrate themselves into their lives and get entangled in an unexpected incident.
수련대 착하다니까.
짜니까 착한 거지.
근데 지금 진짜로 이상한 게 뭔 것 같아.
3 years ago, a gunman opened fire at a church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, killing 26 people and injuring 20 others. It would have been much worse, though, had Stephen Williford not been there. Stephen is the man who took out the gunman. He says that since that day, legislation has been passed in Texas allowing security to have guns. And he says that where he is, it's important for parishioners to be protected.
Killing stops when a second gun shows up to the scene, and it takes someone else to stop it, whether it's a police officer, whether it's somebody like Jack that's on the scene. And the police were 5 to 7 minutes behind me, and my community didn't have 5 to 7 minutes to wait.
Catch the full interview with Stephen Williford discussing in detail why he feels churches and schools in the U.S. need better protection for the most vulnerable. That's coming up in the second half of our show. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. Night to Shine is an event sponsored by the Tim Tebow Foundation and hosted by My Victory Lethbridge on Friday, February 7th. Night to Shine is an unforgettable prom night experience for people with special needs, ages 14 and older. This complimentary event begins on a red carpet with guests receiving the royal treatment, including hair and makeup stations, limousine rides, a catered dinner, and much more. For details and to register, visit myvictory.ca. And if you'd like to volunteer, email carol@myvictory.ca. Celebrate Family Day at the Galt Museum and Archives for their second annual free pancake brunch. Taking place on February 17th beginning at 10 a.m., come and enjoy delicious pancakes, music, crafts, and games. And while you're there, check out the exhibits and complete a special treasure hunt. Admission is free. For more information, visit galtmuseum.com/events. The Lethbridge Association of the Blind provides numerous activities for the blind and visually impaired in the Lethbridge area. These events include dinners with entertainment, theatrical performances, local museum tours, bowling, and much more. For more information or to volunteer, call 403-942-1677 or email brownwj@shaw.ca. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.